So yeah, we'll give it another 3-4 minutes and then start. Okay, and now why am I not able to put it on full screen? There. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to this fourth session on the Environmental, Social, and Governance Toolkit for African Mini-Grids. I was here the first one, and I think Marine was with you for the second one, and now we are happy to be here with you for this fourth session. Maybe just before we start, everybody, you could put on your cameras just so we see each other before we disappear again, if that's all right with you. Yeah. Okay. So basically, yeah, good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure to have all of you here with us. So this module 4 that we're going to take you through is the last of a series of 4, which we have called Making Environmental, Social, and Governance Run, but not run independently, run with improving the sustainability of the mini grids and improving the impact of what we are all doing in the field. So this is about reporting roles and the way ahead. And as I mentioned, I'll take you through this along with my colleague Marine, whom all of you know, who is the ENS and more specifically gender expert. So the table of contents, more or less, is that, well, we'll do a little bit of an opening with a few questions to get us all going. Then the first main core of the session will be about ESG reporting templates, what we want to put in there and how it can also effectively support the management of the mini grids. We'll then have a break and then focus on the how, rules, organization, and questions and answers, followed by a wrap up. So where have we been over the last 3 sessions? The first session, which we did together with Marine as well, was about, oh no, it was with Guylain, I'm sorry. We opened the toolkit, we went through the guidebook, the principles, we went through the ESMS logic, so how to set up an environmental and social management system, the basic 7 pillars, and basically looking at how the tools fit together, because what we have tried to do all along this work is in the guidebook explain the logic of ESG and then to propose to you some tools, but really focusing on the needs of the mini grids and not on side subjects, and trying to make them as practical as possible with, the 3 levels that we've been talking about, level 1, level 2, and level 3, depending on the size and the cluster of the mini grids that we are talking about. The second one was really Marine's core subject, how to manage people and the community, issues of labor, health and safety, security, also indigenous people, Very importantly, the stakeholder engagement plans. So the importance of engaging in that right from the start, and right from the start, building in a gender approach, otherwise it gets sidelined. Work on the grievance redress mechanisms and anti-bribery tools. The third one was more about managing the environment, so more about technical issues. And I believe that the session was super dense with lots of questions to address, like land, biodiversity. So, of course, for us in our screening process, we try to avoid having major issues because otherwise, if we get into the high risk levels, it becomes complicated to sustain with the mini grids. Heritage, waste, screening, environmental management plans, and then we had Kudura telling us about the status of battery recycling in Kenya. So before we start now on reporting, rules, organization, and consolidation, I would like to ask once again if you could take the time, please, to take a look at the toolkits. And we have an Excel spreadsheet with comments. And I mean, your comments are more than welcome because the idea is to make all these tools as operational as possible for you and your colleagues. Okay, so before we start, could I ask a few questions that maybe you could answer in the chat? So first, looking back on the 3 previous sessions and based on your experience, what is hardest in your view as regards ESG reporting? Is it the thematic? Is it the issue of frequency? Is it the issue of accuracy? Is it making things useful? So can we take just 1 minute for you to contribute a few answers in the chat? And this, I think, will help Marine and me in the course of this training session. Now, let me see if I can get a hold of my chat somewhere. Conversation there. Okay. Okay, so one comment. The most difficult thing is finding the right balance between getting all of the info needed for us and for our donors with not overburdening the companies. Yeah. So this is something we worked very hard on, I think, in the templates. Okay.
Okay, hi everyone. If I can just chat with Anjali in the meantime, so that you have time to provide some answers. I think what Marie Pour shared here, the right balance between getting all the info and for donors while not overburdening the company. It's indeed the key, and that's exactly why we're doing this exercise now, right? And maybe that requires a kind of shift in the way we perceive this kind of ESG criteria or operational standards, etc. Because if you start seeing them as, if you start seeing the reporting as a management tool, then it becomes much easier to embed them really into the DNA of your operation. And that becomes something so natural that when you provide them to the donor or the banks, etc., it's you don't have any overcomplication, right? If you see it as something that is really helping you set a good, lasting, sustainable business, then that becomes really an important part of the way you do your business. Maybe Angeli, you can put the questions again on the screen because we don't see it anymore.
Sorry.
Yeah, because some people have.
Okay.
Yeah. There is another question, another comment here from Boris saying that different external reporting requirements from donors, investors, and national regulators. It's true. And for this specific training, this specific exercise, we had to focus on the IFC and the AfDB requirements. And it's true that at the national level, there might be other obligations, but overall, they are aligned, right? There is no contradiction, no deep contradiction.
Yeah, and then we had another question just for us to have an idea. In your organization, how many mini grids are you managing or developing? And do you have a plan to recruit a full-time ESG manager? If not, what is the position of the persons who manage ESG in your organization? And lastly, any specific expectations from this session? So you can't see we still don't see my screen. Okay, sorry about that. Let me just get that fixed. There we go. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, you can
Okay,
see
good,
it, but
perfect.
not in the presentation mode, but
There we go. It's coming. There. Okay, so maybe you can continue putting answers to these questions into the chat and we'll build on them as we go. So getting now into the substance of this, the objectives of this module 4, in terms of what we hope that everybody would be able to do as an outcome of this module 4, number 1 is to complete a report. So what we have tried to do is to develop templates which are simple and serve both the purpose of ESG reporting and the purpose of reporting and monitoring what is happening in the mini grid. So we have boiled it down to 5 mandatory monthly fields and the three annual must-do items in the reporting tool, including sex disaggregated data. So we've really tried to focus on what is essential and then what comes as a secondary importance. The other thing also is to try and absolutely avoid double work. So the data that we have organized ourselves to collect on a monthly basis should then feed into the quarterly reports and analysis and then lead to an annual cascade and to find the indicators that we can add at a near zero cost. The idea is that the analysis that is done yearly is basically to improve our system. You know, in the plan, do, check, act circle of the ESG system, this here, the idea is to go on to the improvement side. Now, for this actually to happen, I mean, as you've said, there are lots of different subject matters and data to be collected. The idea is to keep it as simple as possible and to, at the start, invest in organizing ourselves so that everybody knows specifically what they're supposed to do as regards ESG and that we are sure that, you know, there's no major function of the ESG monitoring which is basically left out. I mean, some activities can be fairly light, but it should be clear that the whole thing is mapped properly in terms of what needs to be done and then by whom. The gender aspect, which is becoming more and more important and is essential, it's quite true. I mean, the feeling that we have is that if it's not built in right from the start, generally it's difficult to get these subjects to catch up at a later stage. So this needs to have specific attention. And then we need to choose a realistic staffing model depending on how large our one site is, how large our cluster is. So we should also be, of course, realistic, as we said, like if you're talking about a mini grid with a $1,500 sales per month, definitely one cannot have too much staff, billing onto that kind of a turnover. In order to improve, because the whole idea is that this ESG system is not static. One thing we must bear in mind is that it's a progressive approach. And the day we set it up, it's probably going to be at a level 0, 1, or 2, like it has just started to exist. And the idea is that year after year, we want it to improve and to set goals for ourselves to see what we can improve every year or every 6 months. So these are the objectives of this module. These objectives being stated, I don't know, Marine, if there are other points in the chat that need some comments, or should we get into the reporting and templates?
There is an example coming from Silvestre in Mozambique, who says that he has a mini grid project about to start, and there is at the moment him, so Silvestre, as ENS officer, and around 30 to 40 mini grids implemented by national institutions with their support enable. So I think it's like a extremely timely comment, right? I hope, Sylvestre, you will be able to export a lot of the learnings from today into your project in Mozambique.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So now we are going to walk you through our proposed ESG reporting approach and the templates that we've developed in the toolkits. Once again, and I think we've kept on repeating this right from the start, that ESG reporting also is a management tool embedded into the management of the mini grids, and it should not be perceived just as a chore for donors. We know that, donors sitting out there in whatever country they are just want us to tick boxes, and we don't understand why. Definitely, I think the message that we are striving to bring across is that we build in ESG into our management processes to increase the sustainability, increase the impact, which is what we're all after. So here we have one data set, 2 audiences, the donors ourselves, and then 3 rhythm. So the data set the idea is that we have just one data set which will serve 2 different readers. The financiers now, of course, we all know that once the finance is released, different financiers are close or far from the mini grids. But at the end of the day, whether they're close or not, we want to manage closely. Well, for our financier to begin with, there is an element of risk management. As we've said across a number of subjects, early warning before small issues become defaults. Like if we have our emergency preparedness and response system, which is well in place, if we have our incidents reporting, which is well in place, small incidents can be corrected and we can avoid major problems, which is quite important. For the financiers, if we have a nicely documented system, it doesn't have to be very cumbersome. It can be very lean, but if we have a nicely reported system, we prove that we are accountable, that the governance and performance standard are met. And this is really crucial. And we'll come to that a little bit later. Like, even if we can't manage to report on absolutely everything, doing something, reaching 80% is just very important to prove how engaged we are at being accountable. It also helps for the financiers in terms of comparability because then they can do portfolio level tracking across sites and developers. And as everybody is aware, and I mean the fact that at this point in time, the African Development Bank, IFC, and the World Bank Group in general are interested in this exercise. I mean, everybody knows about the new programs which are now being talked about and being launched. It's important also for the financiers to see what's happening because they also have their own lessons to learn in terms of adapting their financing tools, etc., etc. For our financiers, having this standard data set also will help in terms of faster drawdowns. Like if we are capable of producing reports, including the ESG aspects consistently, I mean, we all know that if we are consistent, it then calls for less supervision, more trust, and then faster drawdowns as well while we are at the still fundraising and development stage. For us as mini-grid developers, well, having all these standard indicators on a regular basis helps us as managers to have a bird's eye view as what is actually happening across sites. Of course, all this paper trail will not replace a quick phone call to the community liaison officer, to the production manager, and whatever. But having these dashboards really, as managers, is super helpful, especially as our colleague from Mozambique just said, like if you have 30 sites to manage, it's really helpful to have this kind of a standard dashboard to monitor. Then for us, it will help also in terms of risk reduction because in particular, as we were saying, if our incidents reporting and grievance reporting is immediately and efficiently done, even for small things, it reduces major risks at a later stage, like conflicts which cause problems, or even technical incidents, like if there is an incident regarding a problem with the distribution connector, for example, might as well correct that fast before it leads to multiplying electrical problems and major technical incidents. It also helps us in terms of learning as spot training needs and fixed procedures that don't work are immediately identified because the grievances and the incidents keep on coming up. It helps also in terms of community relations. It gives evidence that we are listening to our beneficiaries and that we are responding to them. This element of trust obviously then is a help for further development activities, for higher connection rates, and so on and so forth. So having this kind of a standard, and we hope lean as we go through this system, really is a benefit, even though it's an investment at the start. So the idea is to collect the same numbers, not to have two reporting streams, collect them once and use them twice. So the golden rule as a conclusion to this of ESG reporting is that we shouldn't spend months and months and weeks on absolutely wanting to have all the very detailed information filled in. At one point in time, it's better to have an 80% complete and honest report than beats a perfect report that never gets done. Because if we have delays and delays, trust goes down. I mean, managers also get frustrated because they don't have the information. So it's better to provide 80%, which is done properly and which can be used, than accumulating delays and which generate other snowballing problems. So consistency and honesty matter much more than polish. A blank field reads as a compliance failure and a documented gap reads as management. So rather than saying, oh, no, I don't want to report that gap, like for example, maybe my first aid is delayed and my people or the new people I've recruited have not had first aid management, just to give that example. It's much better to report that first aid is delayed and that I'm going to do something about it over the coming months, rather than saying, oh my God, I don't want to report a gap and I want to do my training immediately. So a documented gap reads as management, and basically what top managers want, and the financiers as well, is to see that we are capable of, number one, identifying the issues, and definitely number two, addressing them. In terms of structure, what we propose, but then, as we've said across the board and right from the start, of course, all this has to be adapted to your own specific conditions. And, through the interviews that we did in preparing this, one of the important elements that mini-grid developers sort of were complaining about is what was said earlier also in the chat, that sometimes donors have different templates, etc., and it becomes complicated. So what we are trying to say is that it's worth it to take the time at the start to bring all your financiers around the table and say, look here, this is what we propose to do as something that all of you could agree on. So in doing this, what we propose is basically to have monthly, quarterly, and annual reports. Your monthly report is about health, safety, environmental, and social issues, which are really dashboards on safety and site level compliance. So just making sure that all the incidents are absolutely reported, and whatever compliance considerations that we have, for example, in terms of maintenance of the batteries and things like that, are basically monitored. And that doing that once a month should really not be a problem, because it's also totally embedded in good technical and customer management practices. So here, the site managers, the community liaison officers, the operations and management leads actually fill in that information at the site level. It can be transferred to your financing institutions, though generally they don't require those monthly reports, but it's definitely important for your ESG manager and for your company manager. So why do that, even though it may seem to be cumbersome to have monthly reports? But I think everybody knows that if we catch up early in management in general, it's much easier to keep a zero harm approach. Now, the quarterly reports there, we feel should basically feed into your more global ESMS report, so environmental and social management report, environmental, social and management systems report. The idea there is to go a little bit also into the trend analysis to see whether I'm having more incidents of a certain kind. Like if, for example, some batteries are failing more and more regularly, it may tell me that, I have to be careful maybe about renewing them, looking after how they're aging, etc., etc. On other things like the grievance status, if, for example, I see in the trend that, people are, for example, complaining about the cost of electricity or the cost of service, and say that they don't want to connect anymore if this is coming up, then I say, oh, maybe if this is increasing, there's something behind that, and I need to do a customer consultation and see what can be done about it. So the idea here is that in the quarterly report, we look at trends to see whether one has to intervene and have some corrective managers. So here, the ENS manager would look into these trends and then report. If the financing institution wants quarterly reports, that can be done. But definitely the top management of the company or of the group would generally be interested in seeing these trends. It's sort of a check, like, are we on the right track, or are there things that I need to correct? So this really helps us in midterm risk tracking. And then we move to our annual reports, the environmental, social, and governance reports. And at a more, how should I say, substantive level, the reports as regards impact. So here we take a higher level view and analysis on a yearly basis, where we look at performance standard compliance and we look at impact. So there we can look at, for example, have my productive uses increased? Is there a level of satisfaction as regards the service? How can I analyze these trends? And then in terms of the performance standards, if I see that, for example, some grievance status has been really improving, I can maybe score myself in terms of, integrating the concerns of the whole community or of indigenous people. I can maybe say, okay, now I have reached from level 2 to level 3 or level 3 to level 4 in terms of improving my compliance levels. The flow there again is from the environmental and social manager right up to the board, because here it's your investors basically who are really interested in seeing the impact, whether one can see that there is improved satisfaction, improved standards of living, and if you want to, like also in terms of the development, your own development as a company, these sorts of reports can lead to, for example, mini films, communication. We've achieved this, we've achieved that, which can build DFI confidence, but also improve the image of the company across the board. So why? The idea is that we are transparent. The investors see the impact of what they have been investing in, and more globally, we as developers then can also be satisfied that all our efforts are coming to fruit and has an impact on generally the global public. It's important to think about your system, because the idea is that each report should feed into the next. We must, of course, make sure that the math is correct, that the totals must be reconciled, because, of course, your board and DFIs would do reality checks just to make sure. I mean, it's a standard audit practice, so we also have to be rigorous about what we're doing there. So now zooming into these three levels of reporting, in the monthly health, safety, environmental, and social reports, as we said earlier, the idea is to report on health and safety incidents, including the near misses. We don't leave a blank. We report also on the number of workers, for example, whether we've increased, whether we've decreased, whether we have part-time workers, seasonal workers, male, female. Reporting then on the grievances received, including gender-based violence, which should be counted in separate lines. The engagement activities is also important to make sure that we have been talking to our customers, that we've been talking to our communities, that we are on top of their satisfaction levels, or what they would want to see more, what they would want to see less. Obviously, if there are complaints about tariffs, which is what we often have a problem about, or if they say, well, look here, we all have electricity, what about setting up a water pump? Things like that emerge if we have good stakeholder engagement. And of course, all major incidents have to come up in these monthly report. And well, you saw that. I think Marine probably discussed this in great detail in the second training session, that major incidents have to be reported within a short period of time. So if we send a monthly report which is half full, this doesn't lead to trust. This would lead to a situation where one would say, well, what's happening in the field? It reads as a compliance failure and not as a data gap. So it's better to put in zeros rather than to leave blanks per se, or to put a comment. So in the quarterly ESMS, as we said during the introduction, the idea is to move from raw numbers to trends that we can then act on. So what the quarterly adds to is that we're looking at the trends. So we have the compliance status for every monitoring row, and we also report on whether we are compliant, non-compliant, or whether we are partially compliant. For grievance, for example, if we look at the trends, we can then look at grievance resolution timelines, as we said, acknowledged within 5 working days, resolve or escalated within 30 working days, that the target would be 80%. So side, we've suggested like a very simple tracking template, for example, by theme, whether there have been worker labor conditions complaints received, whether they're closed. So if we've received 5, whether 3 are closed or all 5 are closed, it gives us a good tracking mechanism to then go back to the reason why they've not been closed. In terms of livelihoods and lands, are there some complaints regarding encroachment, traditional land rights, or encroachment on livelihoods? Community health and safety, well, this probably is not very, very significant for our solar systems, though if we have, for example, oil spills, if we're talking about a diesel genset and that, used oil is just thrown into the sites of the community nearby, there should be a grievance mechanism, leading to these incidents being reported, and then that, we should be doing something about that. Gender discrimination, so in terms of salaries, working conditions, and others. And I think, as was really highlighted during the second training session, is that if we are serious about these grievance mechanism and the gender approach, we really have to make sure that there is a lady who is in charge of the gender-based reports or complaints, so that this can also be brought up into the system, and if possible, to have a confidential reporting system. Other incidents, I talked about the oil spills, but could also be related to noise or other such problems. To go back to the table on the left, the quarterly reports also make sure that we've been addressing the issues of indigenous people properly, if relevant, because they may not be relevant. Do we have specific action plans? What are the trends of those action plans vis-a-vis integrating of indigenous people? And at the end of the day, what looks good in such a quarterly report is that the manager, who's basically providing these reports, signs on to it to make sure that the numbers are reconciled with the monthly report, with the monthly records. So that goes for our quarterly ESMS reporting. Now, moving on to our annual impacts. So we all know that, the managing directors and the board level principals, those who have invested in the project, as well as the investors and DFIs, generally they don't really have the time to check on the monthly and quarterly reports unless there's something major that they want to track. This is the report that they're basically interested in reading. So in that, some high-level numbers would always be provided, such as installed capacity and connections. So connections, both for the viability and showing the impact, both in terms of people, evolution of productive uses, and so on, is really very important for our investors, for us as well, to make sure that we are achieving the kind of impact that we would like to achieve. Affordability. So looking at the trends, not only of the unit energy bills, but also of the amount of average monthly energy spent, is something which is important, just to have a feel for whether we are in a, let's say, stable situation. Like if we have generally speaking, a very small settlement where they are just basically households, we may not be expecting an increase in consumption, which is fine, but it is just that we know the characteristic of the community we're working in. Or we may be in a sort of a slightly larger community where there are more activities, where people are getting employment opportunities, and where we see an increasing trend in expenditure on energy, for example. Productive users, super important to see whether the community then is achieving some improvement in its impact and the situations. Well, we always like to track whether the owners are male or female, of course. Whether there are more local jobs which have been created, but then this, of course, will depend on the characteristics of the community itself. It's not, as we know, 100% dependent on how good we are at doing our jobs in terms of operating of the mini grid. Reliability is, of course, important. So uptime and what incidents we've had, what kind of failures we've had in terms of cuts, but also whether we have technical and non-technical losses in terms of electricity. So that would be good also to report, but that happens in comparing our unit bills and our production. What's also interesting to report on is local representation in decisions, meaning whether our community liaison officer is a permanent person, whether this person has been changing, not been changing, and how our stakeholder engagements are helping in taking decisions. Of course, for the gender-based aspects, if we are capable of highlighting like the number of women engaged in local representations, how many female-led households we have in the total number of connections, these are also indicators that in terms of impact, investors like to see if we are capable of coming up with them. But if we build them in right from the start, hopefully that should be possible. So as we were saying in the previous slide, the women specific representation line is the single most commonly missing item in annual reports. It's a declining trend in women's involvement signals that women are not being reached by engagement. Now, I think it's a general trend amongst DFIs, but the African Development Bank is particularly sensitive to women's engagements. And I think it's really seen as a plus if we really do integrate that in our reporting. But I would say beyond a plus, it's of basic importance, I think, in looking at the impact globally that we're going to have with our activities. The governance section pulls straight from the ESMS. We also have to track in this annual report where we are in terms of our permits. Do they have to be renewed? Our management plan registers. So do we have to change some of our management plans? Typically, if we see that we are having more and more incidents, for example, as regards the operation of our genset, maybe it means that our management plan needs to be improved, like in terms of how do we do the maintenance and all that. So the management plan and the register can be reviewed and should be checked upon on a yearly basis. Also check upon the organogram, like is the organogram suited to doing all the activities that we've been talking about? Again, what we said is that when we are talking about level 1, of course, we can't recruit 3-4 people to do that, but designate people from our organization or from the community to be in charge of a certain theme. So this is basically how we propose to try and standardize our monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, and yearly reporting. In working on this, reviewing it, we really hope that this kind of reporting would satisfy, all management, generally speaking, and most of the DFIs and financiers. But of course, it's a baseline from which you can work. That's the whole idea. And any comments in our toolkits would once again be more than welcome. So maybe at this point, I hand it over to Marine, unless there are some burning questions at this point. We can wait for a minute to see whether there are any questions, and you can put them into the chat or even open your mic, and please feel free to ask any questions. Otherwise, after a minute or two, I think Marine will take you through these exercises, and then we really hope that you'd come up with good engagement and answers. So, Marine, all right with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Anjali. It's been really interesting working on trying to crack the code really for you, and trying to make things as easy as possible, right? And as you may know from the previous session, my focus has been really very much on, let's say, the human aspect and the challenges. So, Anjali, I don't know if you want to keep sharing your screen, or should I do it like for ease?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. So the idea here is really to get you imagine a portfolio and kind of make this exercise together, or individually if you prefer, but together on the chat, to kind of flag where there would be room for improvement in a virtual case, a case that we don't know yet. Okay, so I'm not sharing my. No, stop sharing. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to share a window. I wanted to share this one. And now I'm going to go in full screen. Okay, can you confirm that you see it? Yes. All right. So let's say that we are handling together a portfolio with the three mini grids, right? One is called Riverside, one is called Hilltop, and one is called Crossing. You can see that they're different in size, in numbers of connections, also in number of workers, and in number of incidents, including on near misses. What you can also see is that there have been some different engagement activities, right? For instance, on Riverside, there have been 2 engagement activities. On Hilltop, there has been 3, and on Crossing, only 1. And there has been also some grievance received. On the Riverside, 2 were related to labor, 1 related to noise. On the Hilltop, 1 was about the land, 1 was about gender-based violence. And on the Crossing side, there was no specific grievance. So, what do you see here? You see that there has been a kind of numbering of kind of collecting this data. Is there anything you imagine has happened, or something like, if we go back to the session I chaired on let's say the human aspect, the gender aspect, do you see, is everything smooth and easy? Let's focus on this line to start with, on the engagement activity. Anjali, I might need you to read the chat for me if you're there. Yeah, you're mute, my dear. Okay, so what
Sorry,
do you?
I am definitely here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, do you see? I mean, have we done our job by not having really women focused engagement activities? As we shared in the previous in the sessions, it's not only about having women as worker or trying to change the dynamic locally, but to try to understand where we are at, because maybe the women are the one going to the market or going to the water pump, for instance, and maybe that is not accessible to them. But if we don't have like the conversation with them in a specific dedicated place, well, we can't, there are many things that we can't know, right? So there's only one of the sites that has had the engagement with women activity, right? It's the hilltop. And what do you see with the hilltop? On the grievance received, you see that there has been also one specific gender-based violence issue reported. Does this mean that there has never been any kind of gender issue in Riverside or in Crossing? No, it doesn't. It means that there might have been an overlook of this type of challenge because there has never been the proper conversation with women about, you know, the site, what it means, how safe they can be, that there is a confidential channel they can use, and that there is really some specific work that and specific, let's say, routes to address this kind of challenge, right? So that means it means really that you know, it's by also having the data that we can act on them. You see, it's not because you have a zero that it's a real zero. Because if the conversation, if the training of the people hasn't happened, and training in the sense of just like trying to make them embrace the new kind of technology that is brought to them, the new kind of relationship, human relationship that is brought to them. That if they don't really have the time for that, well, it means really that you are missing part of the picture. Okay. Any kind of comment on this? I mean, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and comment if you want. It's we really appreciate your participation. Not only in the chat, not only in writing, right? So if you want to step up and say something, please do so. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So when you fill the monthly report, you can really find what's wrong.
Marine, we can maybe go back to the previous one just for 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe in the group, can we just get some feedback, like those who have been operating systems, have you had, grievances received? And like if one or two of the participants could sort of give us a case study or something you've gone through in terms of grievances received, that would be interesting for us to know what kind of grievances you encounter, whether they're labor-based or whether they're noise-based or whatever.
Oh, and by the way, maybe I can mention also some really interesting feedback coming from the previous conversation, the second training that was really about that. Someone said that after the training, they understood much better why they need to have different ways to contact let's say, the grievance team or the team that could act on potential challenges via dedicated phone numbers, via dedicated channel, because this is really important to create trusted, let's say, channels, trusted conversations, trusted partners, if you want. And this person really said that they would start implementing this, having a dedicated line for grievance. Maybe this person can step in if they want. I think it was in the chat, not in talks. You're awfully shy this morning.
Yeah. Maybe let's just give everybody like 30, 45 seconds to think it over.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's important to repeat this point as well, that it's not because no one is complaining that there is no problem. Actually, complaining is a very good sign. It's the proof that that the stakeholder trust you, that the people on the ground trust you, and that you listen to them. So it's really, really, really good for let's say, an adoption of such a such a technology that can be so life-changing, right? So it really proves that that it's becoming part of the community, right? So make sure people complain to you, and in different formats, different ways, different channels. Any comment in the chat, Anjali? Oh, someone, yeah, Sylvestre wants to speak. Sylvestre, the floor is yours. How are you today?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you, and hope you're doing well as well. Well, I just wanted to comment regarding like an example from a case study from Mozambique, because our national institution that we are supposed to support for this coming ESG project, sorry, coming GCF project, before they have implemented some mini grids along Mozambique. But what we realized is that beside having these GRM mechanisms stated there, but it wasn't working properly. And the thing that we saw is that there is no documented or evidence of grievance that was that were reported, and the only one they shared with us were only like sabotage or people who went there to rob or steal some equipment like batteries. That's all. Never recall any grievance related to gender-based violence or anything else. But for us, we realized that doesn't mean that they didn't have those kind of problems or issues,
Yeah.
but they were not aware. So this is our main role now, to support them and institutionalize these tools and make them operational, so that everything else is connected and everything else is included in reporting and documentation or evidence. So this is what I wanted to share. And
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sylvestre. It's exactly it, right? There is a chain of of challenge and of type of problems that arise, and if people are starting to sabotage the system, that it's something that benefits them, that benefits their parents, that benefits their neighbors, that benefits the school of their children, right? If they sabotage it, it's because they don't feel that it is for them and with them. It doesn't belong to them. And this, all the work that we are doing today and in general related to people embracing this kind of technology is for people to realize how that it is theirs, that it's tailored for them, right? And if you sabotage something, it's because you don't care, because you feel that it's somebody else's, you know, whereas when it's yours, you want to keep it. And, you know, having this line of grievance, or having a real good reporting of incidents, etc., it proves that you, as the developer, that you care, that you want really people to own their this mini grid, right? That you want to listen to what their challenges are. So indeed, it would be great, Sylvestre, if in 1 year's time you could tell us if the number of, let's say, thief or damage has lowered because you have been able to act before people felt they didn't belong, right? That would be really, really, really fantastic to have this kind of input. Let's move on if no one wants to comment. Yeah, Anjali?
I just wanted to ask one question quickly. You said that you realized that it was not reported, and maybe due to even though it was not reported, did not mean that it didn't exist, and so now you're trying to improve. But do you have the feeling that this led to tensions, and how do you feel that increasing this level of transparency and reporting streams will actually help you as a mini grid developer? Maybe a difficult question, but just curious to know what your feelings are.
Well, I think that having this well-developed system, it will help not only the system to make it more sustainable, but to build more trust among the community, so that they will feel it more belonging. I think that will make them feel more that the system belongs to them, so that they can be free to do to use it and to operate it and to report any issue or problem uh, around them. Because if they are fear of having their daughters or sons going to use the system, or because there are some workers around, they will be harassed, it will make the system not sustainable, because they will start losing less. They will start maybe um, not yes, not using the system for the purpose, mainly for the productive use. So I think that the results would not be satisfactory. That's, I don't know if I answered the questions.
Oh, you did. You did. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Marine, maybe you want to share Marie's comment in the chat?
I can't read it, so you have
I'll
to read it.
then for you. I'll read it.
Yes,
So,
please.
Marie mentions, as an investor, one of the companies that we financed had a grievance-based, had a JBV complaint. Okay, and the company reported it to us. We followed the issue with high scrutiny and made sure that the company took all the steps needed to properly handle the issue and increase awareness to prevent this risk. So this is actually super interesting, because it just leads to the fact, I think, that as a mini grid developer, you take on also and you contribute to the more global social well-being in the community, just as Sylvestre has shared with us, I feel. But Marine, maybe you'd like to add something to that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's also a proof that the trust is arriving, right? And I think one of the challenges is really to understand how disruptive the arrival of a mini grid can be on an existing community, right? It's a lot of changes, having access to better quality electricity, to maybe more services. So it is changes, and let's be honest, changes can be scary and sometimes for a good reason. So having this proper channels where people can voice their concern, and this concern being taken seriously, so they don't disturb the balance that existed, and really act as a, let's say, positive agent of change, is something really, 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 really so powerful. And I think it's really in these little things that it becomes visible at the end, right? So thank you for your testimony, Marie. Okay, let's move on to the next then. So, what would you find your let's say, if we continue in around this, we would have to produce a monthly report, and that would produce the 5 numbers, the one that are on the previous slide. Then it would be oh, there's also a feedback from Boris. Can you read it, perhaps, Anjali?
I'm sorry, I lost my network for a second, and there was a blank, and then there was to you, Anjali. So I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes, that there is a comment in the chat from Boris.
Yes. Apologies. Yes. Interesting. Most of our grievances are related to tariffs. We've carried out several engagement activities, including community meetings and radio programs, to keep people informed and address their concerns. These efforts were supported by the regulators and local authorities. Most people prefer to raise their concerns verbally rather than in writing. So our main challenge is to ensure our team has the capacity to respond to them in a timely manner. Our gender-based violence grievance intake channel is currently under development.
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely fair that people prefer to report their concern in vocally, right? It's I mean, not everybody feels confident enough to write, or maybe people don't write, right? So that's like, it's not about the way you complain, right? Or you express your grievance. It's about the way like you as a developer receive it. So when really you noticed, or the people on the field notice that there is a challenge, they should be the one writing down to that something has been voiced, right? So indeed, I think that's a great suggestion, implicit suggestion, to leave the possibility to leave this kind of voice memos or something. For instance, it's possible via WhatsApp to leave a vocal message, right? And that is perfectly, that should be perfectly valid, but you have to make sure that your system, your let's say your database, the one you build as a developer, allows this, right? So it's indeed a great testimony.
And if I may just add, Marina, the first part of what you say, Boris, is really very, very interesting, because we all know that it's a little bit of a problem, this issue of tariffs, because of course we know that we are in this situation where, for the mini grid developer to have some kind of viability, if you reverted back to a kilowatt hour equivalent, it's much more expensive than if it were on the grid, except if you have huge government subsidies, which generally don't happen. So, but on the other hand, you're cheaper than nothing, or you're cheaper than diesel. But yet, as time goes by, it's in a way natural that even if your service is good, people, complain because they would like to have the same kind of service as the grid, etc., etc., etc. So what you said over here is that actually you had several engagement activities, including community meetings. So this basically means that having the regulators together with you, and also having your site-based operators who are trained and aware about all of these issues really is a help. So that for me, I think, is a very interesting pointer that we really should also empower our local operators, our community liaison officers on this very sensitive issue. Because if it's only your top management who can explain these sensitive issues, then you won't be able to crack the nut right at the start. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. All right. Let's move on. So when you fill the monthly report, you will see that you must produce some mandatory numbers for the whole portfolio, etc. But there's also something that you must do, is to disaggregate the workers and any people data by male or female. For instance, here you can see on the crossing site that it was not done. Like we don't know, maybe it is only three men, but it's not necessarily clear, right? Then it's important also to put grievance on the right lines and keep GBV and so gender-based violence, etc., separate and confidential. It's so important that it stays confidential, that the woman, because it's usually the woman or even the child, feels safe to report what has happened to them. And again, you can rely on local organizations or a local clinic to help you in this work. You don't have to do everything alone, right? It's also when you fill the monthly report, if the count is really zero, write it. Never leave a field blank. Like, it's not because you don't know that there is nothing. So use this kind of report as a way to ask yourself, how is it going? And you must also flag anything that triggers this kind of 72 hours rules, like when there is a minor incident. Here you can see on the hilltop that there was a minor incident. If you were not sure that it was minor, you should have reported it anyway. Like, try to understand, because maybe 50 people over the course of 5 years will get a minor cut at the same place. So maybe actually that place is dangerous, right? So it's important to gather even the small things to make sure that it is solid in the long term, right? So once you have done that, you must ask yourself, which of these numbers are we already collecting today? What number could we add without no extra work? Maybe it's just because we haven't disaggregated the data, right? And maybe let's ask ourselves, where would the data come from? Where does it come from? The site logs, from the contractors, from the CLO, from the commercial systems, from the field agents? That is important to have this kind of thing. And also ask yourself, what do we have as gaps? Why do we have it as gaps? It's absolutely normal that in the first month, you and your team are in the learning process, that you don't know exactly what you should collect and how, right? But the fact that you don't know it, it's like you must keep a post-it somewhere saying, I don't know how to collect this point. I need to investigate a little bit more, right? But take the time to understand what your own challenge in documentation is, right?
Okay, and Marine, we have another question. Well, it's also for all our mini grid developers to think about the answer. Very interesting. So it's Marie who's asking that question. So as investors, we also have a grievance mechanism for the projects we finance, but we don't want to interfere with the company's own grievance mechanism. Yeah. Generally, we propose our grievance mechanism to be available to the communities as an escalation process if the issue is not satisfactorily handled by the company. So, do you have recommendations on how to position the grievance mechanism of the investor, so direct to the community, to ensure we are not interfering with the company's process, but can still make our grievance mechanism accessible to communities as well?
It's really about the dialogue and about the trust that you build with the developer yourself. Like, they must be able to understand that it's not personal, right? That that challenge happen. They can be a great source of learning, and the using different channels, different streams, if you want, can be a great way for all of us to improve. So if you can kind of embed or have some kind of specific log for this the not the operational but really the company challenges, that is something, you know, that would be extremely useful. But you need to talk with the people on the ground who are managing the site as well. And anybody has some suggestion here? Because I think that's, you know, exactly the kind of example that could benefit from exchanges of good practice. So if anyone else is doing things differently, it would be great to hear it. Anjali, anything?
No, it's food for thought, and I haven't experienced such situations personally, so I wouldn't know. What I have seen more of is that the donor basically reviews the practices of the company, and if they're found to be like not sturdy enough for XYZ reason, you know, like looking at the gender issues or things like that, then the donors sort of ask for the system to be more sturdy. But I have never encountered this situation of, in a way, two parallel streams.
Yeah. No, but maybe I can report on one kind of model that exists in Europe. Actually, something I worked extremely extensively with is that in Europe, you, as when you're an energy consumer, you can lodge your complaint. You can escalate your complaint, right? The first step is to contact your energy supplier and say you have a problem, a grievance, etc. And if if there is no satisfactory resolution, you can escalate it either to the national regulator or to a body called the ombudsman. It's no fully complicated word, but it's basically someone whose job it is to help you as a consumer kind of challenge the status quo and get your rights enforced. So, you can also, if you have a lot of if you manage a lot of different projects, if you have a lot of understanding of, what is at stake, especially on the tariff conversation or maybe on the invoicing process, etc., you can that could be something you do is like to have a kind of board that helps sort out the best outcomes at a higher level. I hope it helps. And Marie, don't hesitate to contact me if you want more information about this kind of models. Anjali, you're mute.
Unmute. Here it is. So Marie is thanking us for the answers and the parallel with the EU mechanism, which is very insightful. And we have Sylvestre, who is typing a comment. So let's give him let's give him a minute to finish typing his comment. Mm-hmm.
I can't see the comment. I'm looking forward to it.
No, I can see, the little dots moving. So it will happen. Well, if you want to speak, Sylvestre, please feel free also to take on the mic. Huh?
Absolutely.
Well, what I was trying to say is that, for example, if the company and the investor have two different grievance mechanisms, they make a comparison and see what are the gaps and requirements that the investor wants to see. If the company is missing some points or whatever, so that they take the missing points from the investor and include in the company's system, and that will be basically making the company's system more inclusive and connected to the investors system, so that there are issues that are not resolved with the company. It's clear on the system that they can escalate and connect to the investor system. That's what I'm thinking, and maybe trying to see if we can apply also here in Mozambique. Just to connect, for example, the GCF standards and requirements on our national institutions GRM. Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful. So Rin and Ines, I think we've more or less reached the coffee break time. Marina.
Yeah, there was really one extra slide
Please go
that
ahead.
is, but I've already mentioned the kind of points that the kind of traps that I put in the portfolio example. So, it's really important to have to sort to make sure that the gender-based violence are really separated from the rest of the grievance, right? Because that requires a different type of answers, right? The yeah, the can you see my screen?
No.
Oh,
Yes.
you can't see my screen. I don't know what happened. Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the one I was saying. So here you can see that it should have been separated, like the gender-based violence should have been really separated from the other grievances. Then the blank trap. So there was zero incident mentioned. It has to be zero if it is really zero. If you leave it blank, it's not compliant. So here, zero is zero. You cannot say I don't know. You have to investigate. Then it's important to have really disaggregation between men and women, and then you have this kind of issue with 72 hours for sharing concerns about incidents, and keep it as a rule that if you're not sure, you notify, you document. You don't wait for the end of the month, because you never know. Maybe one day it's a minor incident, and 1 week after it's a big one. Okay, so that's it for me and for this part. Anjali, if you want to take the floor and the screen again.
Well, I think that we have now reached the end of this first part. Maybe just as a concluding slide, well, which I should first of all share once again. Well, we should have, sorry. There we go. So we're going to go, we suggest that before we break for a few minutes to stretch our legs, we had a kind of a quick poll. What feels hardest about ESG reporting for you today? Is it knowing the numbers which actually matter? Getting the data from site contractors? Is it keeping it consistent across periods? Is it finding the time just to do this? Or is it handling sensitive cases, gender-based violence or whatever, correctly? So as we now go for stretching our legs, and we suggest that we meet now at 11:45, we would really appreciate it if all of you could put in the chat a sort of a scoring, like putting this A, B, C, D, E by order of what is hardest and then what is easiest. It may be a bit of a challenge, but if all of you could, give this a little bit of thought while we stretch our legs, giving us this ABCD by order of hardest difficulty to lesser difficulty, yeah, I think it would be an interesting conversation that we can take up after the coffee break. I'm sorry this slide became orange for a reason I don't know. But anyway, if it's all right with you, I suggest we now have a quick coffee break for about, or stretching our legs for 10 minutes, and we can reconvene at 11:45 our CET time, and we can start 5 minutes thereafter. Thank you all very much and see you in a little while. And when we start again, maybe Ines and Reen, you would like everybody to put on their camera so we can take a virtual group photo, isn't it?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. Have a good break.
Okay. Thank you. See you later. So, Ines, within the next 2-3 minutes, we let you do the prompt for the group photo and also for people to respond to our question, because I see 0 responses in the chat.
Hello, is everybody back from the break? If yes, can you turn on your camera and respond on the chat as well? So we'll take just a quick picture to finalize this for module training. So if you're there. Prudence, are you there? Prudence? Damas? Nestor? Joseph? Yay. 1 second. And it's done. Thank you. We can resume the session. Over to you, Anjali or Maureen.
So
We
could you do the
can-
photograph or
it was
do
already,
it once?
it was already done. You can share
Okay.
your screen and resume the session.
Okay, so before I share my screen one more time, could we have, this scoring of our questions? So I shall indeed share my screen with the questions, and it would be interesting to have the scoring of this. What is it that you find most difficult out of these questions, which are from A to E? If you can just mention the most complicated, the one that you find the hardest. So yeah, maybe Marine, as I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat. Can you maybe? I think we have one response for the time being.
Yes, I will monitor the chat. So Sylvester said in order or what feels hardest, that handling sensitive case is the most difficult. Then it's about keeping it consistent. Then about knowing which number matter. Getting the data from site and contractors, and finding the time at all is probably the most complicated one. So Prudence also says that keeping it consistent is difficult. Then it's about getting the data, then about handling sensitive case, knowing which numbers actually matter, and finding the time. So we see a great variety of differences. Mary says it's about getting the data. Yeah, it's from the hardest to the less hard. So so what you wanted to say, Sylvester, is that hardest is to find the time at all, right? Find the time. But from the moment you understand that it's part of your management, right? That these tools are here to help you manage the mini grid better. That's the key. Oh yeah, hardest is the sensitive case. Yeah, that's why you really need to have a team, not necessarily an in-house team, but know also who, let's say, if they are nurses or doctors or even I don't know, missionaries that are nearby and handle this kind of let's say challenges linked to it can be women's well-being or pregnancy, or having this kind of let's say network of people you could rely on is extremely important. Boris also says that handling sensitive cases is difficult. So I hope that these examples is that what we're sharing today will really help you. And I see that getting the data from sites and contractors is a big concern for many of you. I get it. I get it. But it has to be something they understand is non-negotiable, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. They have to find a minute. And, first few months can be difficult, and then they would go for it. Don't worry. Yeah. Okay, Angela, yeah. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much for your feedbacks. I mean, all this is really very much appreciated. So now we move on to the second part of this session, which is about rules and organization, which we've already started touching upon quickly. ESG does not work if it is only one person's job. Who does what at the scale you can actually afford? So it's quite important, on all these various subject themes that we sort of try and track who is actually doing what. And another thing, probably, as Marine insisted upon in the introduction, is that okay, to a certain extent, it's a job because one has to collect the data, one has to analyze it. But it will actually work better if it's ingrained in the culture of the company, then in the culture of all the employees and operators, and then, of course, in the culture of the communities and the beneficiaries, in that we want to build the trust that we were actually talking about. So, again, we have to be realistic and to match the ESG structure, meaning the HR we have available, to the actual size of our sites or of our portfolio. So this is where it becomes a challenge, because if one has a large portfolio of tiny sites, it's a bit difficult to have one person on each one of the sites. So this is a challenge which is specific to our sector, because as we've already repeated again and again, I mean, we need to reach that critical size for our projects to be bankable with reasonable transaction costs. So you remember the levels that we had suggested. Level 1 would be actually a level where, ballpark figure, the global turnover is less than $50,000 per month. So we are talking about a small developer, a few sites. Well, in this case, it's not very realistic to imagine that one could pay specialized E&S staff to manage this portfolio with the salaries that a highly trained specialist would actually cost. So in this case, no matter what, responsibilities are shared across existing roles. So your CEO or your overall operations manager would also take on that hat and would also ensure that your community liaison officers, that your operators really are aware of the absolute basics that one needs to collect and which are in line with basically what you need to operate your mini grid. So in the toolkit, you'll see that we've tried to differentiate between what is absolutely necessary, as in a level 1 size of a portfolio, and then level 2 and level 3. So when we start growing, so we reach the stage of a growing portfolio. In this case, we are at a stage where we can afford a full-time E&S manager. So this environmental and social manager would actually be overseeing that portfolio of sites, those 10 sites, those 15 sites, those 5 sites, whatever. And this basically achieves the fact that we are going to be able to make our systems more robust, in that we really have a dedicated person who's there to train our, let's say, normal operators in the field, like our CLOs and our operation and maintenance staff. This person, when we are at construction stage, for example, can also supervise the contractors to make sure that the contractors are complying with what we want them to comply with. The other thing also is that this ENS manager would ensure, one of the problems that you've highlighted just now, this issue of consistency of data, the issue of consistency of templates across the various mini grids that we are monitoring. So the role of this ENS manager, well, he has to be endowed with sufficient travel time and sufficient time to travel to the various sites to make sure that all this ENS culture really gets ingrained into the DNA of our company and of our communities. So this is what we basically grow into. And at that level 2, we also try, as we saw in terms of the risk of the portfolios, not to be in a situation where we have major specific environmental or social issues to monitor through specialist studies and so on. Level 3 would be the metro grid. So in this case, as we are talking about, solar mini power plants, which could be, say, 3, 4, 5 megawatts. In this case, given the size and given, let's say, the environmental and social impact that we can have locally and on the community, this basically calls for having a dedicated manager, and where we would also have a procurement specialist when the scale justifies it. So in the case of these metro grids, in the case of larger operations, there are chances that one would have specialist studies, there are chances that one would have specific management programs and plans that one would have to implement. If, for example, one happens to be in a biodiversity sensitive area, then it's possible, that there would be specific plans that would also, and measures that would need to be implemented. But there, probably the size of the site makes it affordable, or else we've mobilized the extra grants that we need to get all that done. So the framework is actually identical at every level. It's only the intensity that changes in proportion to size and risk. So of course, when we are at level 1, one also has to check out the biodiversity, but generally one tries to rule out the risk of biodiversity problems, for example. So level 1 in practice. So there, what we suggest and propose is that, it's not realistic to imagine that one would bear the cost of a new HR. And there, as we said, responsibilities have to be spread across the people we have. So in this case, the project manager or the company management, who in any case have to own this ENS policy and have to make sure it trickles down to the whole team. They will be, let's say, the ENS managers, as it were, and they will be in charge of making sure this policy trickles down, doing the screening in terms of go, no go, and they would be doing the incident review that we have to do at level 1. Even if we are at level 1, obviously to manage our mini grids or our portfolio of mini grids, we have a technical manager, and we also have a commercial manager or customer manager or a community liaison officer, whatever we may want to call it. These people would actually be collecting the data and putting it into a monitoring system, which hopefully would provide the reports automatically, and they would ensure also the training. Possibly, if needed, like if our project manager or the company management doesn't have the time or the skills, this could possibly be supported by a low-cost, time-based consultant to do this monitoring and reporting at level 1. At level 1, regarding community engagement and grievance, this has to be managed locally by our customer relations officer. And it's always good to have a local community member or a CLO who could be actually across several sites to ensure that this grievance mechanism really works properly. But it goes with the commercial team and someone from the local community itself. Worker conduct and supply chain. So once again, the SEAH induction has to take place early on. And as in this case, we don't have our specialized ENS officer, we go back to the top management of the SME that we're working with. And it goes with ingraining the culture. The project manager has to find the time to go to each and every site to meet all the employees, to make sure all these guidelines are basically driven in, and that right from the start we have the gender-based aspects which are really taken into account. We can't have a separate person making sure that our subcontractors, for example, if we have an outside EPC contractor for construction, who is obviously supervised by the technical director, the technical director also has to make sure that along our supply chain, with the EPCs or whoever, they also have the processes in place to comply. Again, we insist again on these gender issues, which lead to a better confidence level over the long term. This should never be left blank, and we should have someone who is named and who is specifically in charge. So at level 1, we actually have single people who are holding several responsibilities and several roles. This is acceptable at level 1. We can't have all the specialists on board when one is talking about a very, very small operations. Nonetheless, we shouldn't leave a role as blank. We should either say, well, that it is not happening and be very frank about it, or, give the time frame in which it is actually going to happen. So which are the rules that actually must exist at level 1? A gender focal point and at least one female community liaison officer. So as we said, for gender issues, it has to be a specific person and not ENS management in general, because we saw how sensitive this is. So it's actually about working with the community and finding someone who would actually volunteer to do this work. So a female CLO will reach more women stakeholders. That's again one of the advantages. It's also important that the SEAH protocols are known. So in terms of our stakeholder engagement, information sharing, it's important that this be actually highlighted right from the start, and that the woman CLO whom we have identified actually benefits for some specific training to be able to manage the various cases which may arise. This person would also be receiving the reports in confidence. The confidentiality is extremely important if we want things to basically flow across our system. At least one female CLO. Generally, we really would like to have one CLO who is a woman, and if it is not the case, yeah, in a way, it would be good to basically be able to report it, because we know that there are certain aspects that we won't be able to capture if we can't ensure that we have a woman at that level. Trained local sales representatives can be a female local sales representatives who can fill this role. So this means that right from pre-construction, it may not be very costly, but the budget or the resource for integrating gender activities is important, because if it doesn't happen right from the start, in general, it probably will not happen later on during project execution. So gender is the one budgeted line item among several. It has to be structural and not optional if we want to address it seriously. Now, how does this actually work, this whole accountability system? I think that we've been talking about it all across these 4 sessions that we've had together, this famous PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act cycle. It has to run, meaning that the planning has to be there. Our policies have to be there. Top management has to own it, has to make it trickle down. Our risks have to be screened, and we have to assign the owners. So planning has to be sturdy if we expect the implementation to happen properly. So after we have our plans, we basically go on to implementation plans. We ensure proper training is done and that our staff is sufficiently driven and motivated to actually engage, which will happen if they understand why, they're doing that, which is basically for the better impact of the whole system. Now, this all has to be checked, and we went through all the checking levels during the first half of our session today. The importance of monitoring the key performance indicators, the importance of reviewing the grievance logs, the importance of reviewing compliance. And once one has done all that, then actually on a yearly basis, as we suggested, we act to improve our whole system. Now, all this, we're going to come with something which is always very amusing for French-speaking people. It's called the RACI, because RACI in French means rotten. So we don't want our system to be rotten at all. But actually, it's important that at all these levels, we have someone who is responsible for each and every task, which is the person who actually does it, that we have someone who is accountable, generally would be the ENS manager. Then you also have people who support. For example, the community liaison officer can come and give some supporting information. There are people who have to be consulted, to provide input before action, and the broader community needs to be informed or told afterwards. So as an example, taking incident reporting, for example, the incident reporting at level 1, or generally, would be the site manager. So it's the person who's there on site, who's actually responsible for filling in whatever report and reporting the incident. The ENS manager, whether a full-time person or not, is the person who is ultimately accountable. Because basically, if an incident is not reported, the question which will arise is, were the systems which were put in place adequate? Was the site manager properly trained? Like, the why is it not happening is actually the responsibility of the ENS manager. Then we have people who would support. So typically regarding incidents, the site manager could get information, could get feedback, could get early warnings from the community liaison officer, who has the role of assisting. Who should be consulted? Well, the project manager as a whole could be consulted once the incident is reported to decide what has to be next. And the DFI or financier would need to be informed. And one could add that beyond the DFI or the financier, probably the community at large should also be informed, because if the incident is related to a technical problem, for example, maybe some additional information needs to be given to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So yeah, it does sound maybe complex, and it probably is difficult for each and every activity to really check systematically this RACI framework. But it's interesting to have it in mind, that we really need to know who is doing it, who is accountable, and who needs to be informed, basically. So we need to have a nice mapping exercise between what is it that we want to do, what is it that we want to be, to have reported, and each assignment needs to be embedded in the job description of the person in charge. And actually, this is what the lenders like very much, because if we show that we've done our screening of our African Development Bank performance standards or operating standards, and that, we've mapped that against someone who is actually responsible and in charge for each and every one of the items, it's actually reassuring for those who are investing in our projects that everything is well controlled and done properly. When we move on to level 2 with one officer doing many sites, so ESG then becomes the day job for our officer in charge. As we said, we'll have one ESG, or we may want to call that person an environmental safety, health, safety, environment, and social officer per cluster. Could be an HSES or an ESG officer in charge for a given cluster. Responsibilities could cover a country portfolio if the country lends itself to it, or a regional portfolio, but not just to one site. This person then can have a higher level, would set up the policies and update them depending on the feedback, and would really ensure that ESG runs through phase, so all the screening and the development phase, as we said, early stage stakeholder engagement and so on, during the construction stage, and then is embedded in operations. This person is actually an expert, and would mean that if a company can afford such a person, one would have less need for outside consultants. So this person would do the training and support all the local site teams to collect data, run safety and social matters, and basically train them on the importance of doing that in conjunction with regular reporting regarding the operations of the mini grids. And as we said earlier, this ESG HSES officer has to be mobile, has to like traveling, has to like to go from one side to the other, and hence have the resources to travel without any constraints. We then, at this cluster level, would see that ESG is harmonized and embedded into the core business of what a mini grid does. Into the marketing, so marketing as in reaching out to new customers, so community engagement and women's outreach, customer service, all the grievance intake. So in this case, we develop confidence, as we said, through customer service, and we expand our business through the marketing. It has to be embedded in O&M and technical aspects. So we already mentioned that a number of times earlier. If the incidents and environmental problems are reported early, then it really helps the sturdiness and the robustness of our operations and management and operations and maintenance, and technical management overall. Lastly, we always are interested in having more connections, productive uses of energy, making sure that the services we are offering are affordable. So all this basically is embedded within your normal commercial activities and your customer relations management system as a whole. So yeah, the idea there is once again that ESG is not an extra add-on, a tick in the box, but can be really embedded into standard management. So what triggers basically the level 2 that we've been talking about for some time already? It's the portfolio scale. So it's difficult to really decide what is the scale. So we were sort of hesitating between saying the number of sites, because of course, if you have a huge number of sites, you'll need someone, but it's also a question of the affordability. And basically we felt that under a total turnover of $50,000 per month, it was basically not reasonable to expect that a full-time ENS manager could be employed. Also, as the risk profile rises, meaning if we go to a category B+, even if we have a small portfolio, but in an indigenous people's context, or if we have recurring grievance, or if we are in a biodiversity sensitive area, then probably one would need a specialist. But there again, if we are in a situation where the turnover is still low, one must be realistic at the screening stage. Either we don't do the project because of all of that, or if we do it, we must make sure that extra funding, grant funding, or whatever is released in order to be able to pay for the work of the special ENS manager, probably until such time as the portfolio increases and we can internally afford it, which is basically what we would prefer. So naturally, profitability and maturity can triggers the employment of a full-time ENS manager. It's as soon as the revenue can carry a full-time role, refinancing makes impact data business critical. So we would like to have that kind of a person, because when we expand, ask for extra finance, it's always helpful to have a dedicated in-house person. It also helps in meeting investor requirements because, a DFI depends on which DFI, but often they do want to have this kind of information. So when we reach that kind of a portfolio side, when an investor wants additional information, then you do need a specialist ENS manager to do all of that. So if that is the case, once again, when we are at a borderline stage, it may also be a better idea to recruit a consultant on a time-based contract if there are special requirements from the investor to move on. So professionalizing ESG is a gradual journey. Yeah? We plan the trigger now, so the hire is a decision and not a scramble. We have these levels, start now, move slowly but surely as our portfolio grows and we build confidence and we manage to make our business more and more sturdy and larger. So unless there are questions for clarification at this point in terms of human resources, you see, we suggest that level 1 are basically activities which are undertaken by the, let's say, normal staff of the organization. And it's only once we reach a certain size that we have a specialist. And, we've tried to describe what are the responsibilities of this specialist. So now I hand it over to you, Marine, as you take us through now the exercises, and maybe I'll let you share your screen at this point as well.
All right, so let me first share my screen. Where is it? Here. Okay, so we've already seen that, and we are here now. So it's a little exercise where, again, I will guide you into a scenario, right? So I hope you're attentive and that you have your hands on the keyboards. So in this scenario, we have 5 staff, 5 sites, and 9 people. The problem is that we don't have a budget for a full-time ESG officer. So using only the people you have in this site, try to organize the roles so you still meet the minimum ESG requirement. So, for instance, take your example, the real role that exists, technicians, sales, etc. And then you can try to map ESG function from the level table 1 onto name. Maybe we can do a screenshot of the level table to put in the chat so people can kind of work it out. Would that be possible, Rin, for instance, if you're here?
Done.
You're on it, so you can? Or
It's done. I just shared it.
okay. Awesome. You're the best. So then based on this, you also need to find the gender SEA focal point and a female CLO. By the way, do you remember that in one of the previous slides, the previous exercise, there was no female employee? It also meant that there was no female CLO if there are no female employee, right? So that might be problematic. And maybe you can mark where you'd use a time-based consultant. So, the question you must ask yourself is which functions would double up on one person? And is it safe? Is it something desirable? Is it like the best choice to make the installer also a local installer, let's say it this way, also the recipient of the GRM? Maybe not. So maybe that role could go to someone else. So can you, when you list your real roles, do you see that there would be some kind of conflict of interest risk? For instance, someone who causes a grievance also receiving it. Like the guy in charge of sales, should it be also the guy receiving the kind of complaints about the tariff? Maybe not, because maybe that's a different exercise. He's not necessarily able to make a step back and reflect on all that, right? Then you must ask yourself, what do you have to accept as good enough for now? Is there something that, you know, is fine because you don't really have a lot of staff, you don't have enough women, you don't have enough people who speak the local language. And then you must ask yourself, are there any blind spots? Is there any role I need to professionalize? And why? Why would I need that? So I know it's a bit theoretical, this exercise, but maybe if you have already a like if we take the example of Mozambique that was shared earlier, maybe we could try to build on that, right? To see if there is any kind of examples or any way we can debrief on where we could improve things. Yeah. Anyone want to speak? Yeah. Okay, so maybe it's too hot and now it's time to move things on. But Sylvester, I would have been curious to hear how you already set things up. If not,
Yeah, maybe we can leave a few seconds still to whoever. Maybe if you don't want to, talk, it would be interesting if in the chat you just mention whether you have a dedicated ENS officer or not. If everyone can just, add this in the chat, that would really be interesting. So at Anka, yes, you have a dedicated ENS officer. And at Anka, can I ask how many sites that one ENS officer manages?
Hi, so I think I'll open my mic just
Sure.
to, yeah. So for Anka, I'm acting as the ESG manager. We are operating 17 operational sites, and for now we are currently developing like around 60 sites.
Okay. And then does this kind of organization talk to you? Can you give us a little bit of a feedback, like, managing 17 sites for one person? Do you feel that, all your staff, I'm not asking you to self-judge more than necessary in your own job, but do you feel that, trying to instill this culture across 17 sites is like feasible for you, or is it a challenge?
So yeah, to be honest with you, it's challenging for us. As in Madagascar, we work across 3 regions, in the south and in the north part of Madagascar, and also in the center. So it's challenging, but yeah, we are working with the team to make it, let's say, to make it happen. So like to do our best.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. And then regarding gender-based aspects, do you find that you can basically instill this knowledge in all the 17 sites, or is that like a problem and difficult to put on a high priority level?
So for now, it's we are currently under developing it. We have already held a lot of meetings. So the idea is for us to work with a local community. We have a community representatives. We call it local electricity committee. So the idea is to work with the women who are member of this committee. That will be our main focal point for GBV aspects.
Good.
Excellent. That's super encouraging. Marie,
Yes.
you have
Yes.
any
Yes. Yes.
more
Yes.
questions?
No, that's an excellent point, right? Because basically, Anjali showed you this kind of map of the roles that needs to be covered. But it doesn't mean that no role should be like that. Everyone needs to hold this role. Only one person should cover it. So it's of course possible to kind of split the responsibility if it's too much, or really, or also double down if it's too much. Uh, so it's really like it's important to stay pragmatic, right? As long as the functions are covered, and that you have good communication with them, that you can listen also to their own concerns in order to deliver the job properly. So, so the three non-negotiable, let's say, put it bluntly, is that you need a name, gender, or SEH receiver with the female reporting line. So you need to have someone who's able to do that. It shouldn't be like, yeah, I'm going to send you to the boss. You need a female reporting line. And it cannot really be doubled down on whoever is more convenient, or oh yeah, they speak the language. No, it should be someone really dedicated for that, or a team of people dedicated for that and trained, because sometimes it can be extremely hard. So it's important that that these women who will be the receivers know how to handle the SEH challenge. Second thing is that, of course, it's possible, as I said, to split the job, to have the role covered by two people, especially if the number of sites is important. The thing is, you must not leave a function unowned. Like like they should be a name, because otherwise it becomes a governance gap and it becomes something a lender, a bank will flag as a risk, right? And then the third point is that each ESG items need at least a little budget. Anjali said it very clearly. The people need to be involved. It is their job, so it needs also to match their lives. It must not be a voluntary thing. It must be a budgeted thing, a professional job, a professional mission, and it must be budgeted at the program level for clusters before the financial close. You need to be aware of that, and you should never say, yeah, we will see it along the line. No, it doesn't work, because the budget insufficiency is the primary reason ESG management fails in practice. And a plan without a budget is a plan that won't be implemented. Remember that. Like we are giving you, and we have been giving you, like all the steps, because a plan without the key intermediary objectives, etc., remains too blurry. So you need to have really the setting in your mind to really implement what needs implementing. So that's all for me for this little debriefing. Okay, Anjali, I can keep on sharing my screen if you prefer, or if anyone has questions.
Yes,
let me know.
there are a couple of other points in the chat.
Cool. Please tell me.
Yes, Sylvester adds, I think, Sylvester, you were saying that you're looking in Mozambique at something like a cluster of 30 sites. What you write over here is maybe it's not that clear as yet, but we are still in the process now to set things up.
Mm-hmm.
We have one ENS officer, yes,
Okay.
and we will possibly try to hire one gender specialist.
Okay.
And just for me to understand, Sylvester, these 30 sites that you're looking at, in your, let's say, baseline scenario, what do you expect that the turnover of that portfolio would be? You can turn on your mic if you prefer.
Yes, well, thank you. I don't know if I got the question right. What do you expect the turnover like of the staff? Is it correct?
No. Sorry. By turnover, I meant the total income. Are you expecting? Because I mean, it's difficult to know because during the first year, you don't know how many customers you'll get, etc., etc. But like in a baseline, after 1 or 2 years, how much do you expect total income would be of these 30 sites?
I'm not sure yet, because we're in the process of assessments and evaluations and due diligences. So I cannot tell at the moment. But because we are about to work off grid, in area very isolated areas that are not covered by the national energy sector. So let's see how it will be the turnover, because we're still in the assessing for the productive use of energy as well. So to make this blended uh, process.
Okay. Fine, but I guess that if we're talking about 30 sites, you definitely will need 1 or 2 people to manage that rather large cluster. Good.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, Marine, so over to you. Yes, I think you can continue unless there are other questions or comments, and I'll leave you to continue, and I'll just do the last slide on the last poll.
All right, all right. So we are wrapping up really and trying to get exactly like the whole journey through ESG. I hope overall that you feel that it's less that it's more relevant to your work and your daily operation, and it's not only about gathering flashy data, but really about helping you deliver a better job and deliver a better service to the community you serve. Overall, you have seen like the principles. We have really assessed like the IFC Performance Standards, the ISS from the AfDB, etc. It's really like the basis, the principles, and then you have seen that there are ways to kind of screen and assess through the first tools. Like the first tool is really about identifying the right place and go and decide not to go somewhere, right? It's really like as I said earlier, it's there's nothing personal here. It's really more about trying to flag what works and how. So having this kind of early screening really from the start is what will help you make a stronger case later. Then we had together, because it was me who worked on that as well, about the people, the community, environment was with my colleagues, but really about how to manage that. And you have the tools which start with number 2 and number 3 that are really about that. And overall, you can see as well that the focus one was on how to organize the ESMS roles, the RASI point, also the gender and the focal point. It's so important that you have like now a clear idea of why it is important to have this role also and this process really separated. And then it's about the reporting. The reporting can seem tedious, but if you have done all the previous elements before, it's not that complicated, right? It's something that helps you deliver a better product, a better service, a better relationship with the local communities, and of course with the lenders. So maybe it will also allow you to unlock some other funding at a later stage. And what you need to keep in mind is that the data loops back, because the reporting will feed the management review. It will update the plans, which will change what you do next month. So it's every time there are, of course, lessons you can bring from a project to another, but you probably need to learn new things. And to learn new things, you need a method. And that's exactly what we are giving you. And overall, and I'm not saying that only because I'm the gender and human rights expert here, but they are running through every box because it's structural. It's not a separate chapter. When you build electricity, an electrical system, mini grid, you bring energy into people's lives, right? You bring them something. You bring them something new and different, and that serves them. It's not to serve the grid, or serve the economy. No, you serve the people. Right, and that is in the world to date. We still have about 700 million people who don't have access to electricity at all. We still have 3 billion people who cook with solid fuel and who do not have access to clean cooking solutions. These numbers are huge, and who is affected first by these numbers is, of course, the women, the most vulnerable, and the children as well. So clean electricity, access to clean electricity is an opportunity for a better life. And we should never, ever, ever, ever forget that, right? And if you decide to apply the ESG criteria, it's because you want something that delivers also on the planet and also on really on everyone. So Anjali, feel free to. I don't see you, so feel free to step in whenever you want. But let's say that with this in mind, with the training in mind that we have done, you really need to make things yours, and they can be small, but they must be real. And the first moves that you might want to do is to open the tool named 1.4 and complete one monthly report for one site, if that already exists. Then you can also fill the responsibility metrics, every function, a name, like who does what. Maybe you want to think of who your gender or SEH focal point should be and confirm that they should be a female CLO. And maybe add some ESG lines to your commercial reporting, and maybe ask your DFI about technical assistance. Like, ask the questions. If you don't know, ask the question. We are here to help you if you need anything at a later stage. And yeah, maybe Anjali, if you want, we can start with this specific question that what felt difficult for you in the ESG reporting or in this session, or maybe what is one change you would like to make in the next 6 months, or what maybe would good enough look like for your company this year? We are in the middle of the year. We still have 6 months until the end of 2026. What would you like to implement?
Yes. I
Yes.
think before we go on to that, I see that Rin had her hand up.
Yes.
No, just something to keep in mind at the end. We will be sharing a survey to assess the whole training. So it's not us assessing you, but you assessing the training to help us improve. Ines will share it at the end, so we will need like 5 or like 10 minutes to fill them. Thank you.
Okay. So lovely. I hope that this has been useful for all of you, but we already somewhat asked these questions in terms of what feels more difficult in ESG reporting. We had asked about, what subject matters or accessing the data. So I think we've covered that. Maybe what I'd be curious is if some of you or all of you could basically give a try to the second question. Like, what is the one change you could realistically make in the next 6 months? So it's the one change, like for those who are already operating sites, of course, but also for those who are at the development stage, given the way that you're thinking about things. Through all these exchanges today and the days before, in terms of human resources, what is the one change, or in terms of training, that you think you'd like to think about for the next 6 months? So before we move on to the questionnaire, maybe we'll give all of you like 1 minute to basically give this a thought, and if you could put it into the chat. So there's already one input, and thank you for that. For our company, we are in the process of finalizing the feasibility studies in 20 mini grids in South Africa and Lesotho. So, yeah, all what we've talked about over here, if there is one lesson, like one takeaway from all these 4 sessions regarding how to integrate ESG and feasibility and whatever, do you have an idea of one thing that you would like to highlight, Thembani? The change is to have inclusive participation. I think my friend Marine is super happy now. Yeah, well, thank you. That's That's very interesting indeed. It's true that when we look at it from an engineering perspective, and ours is also a mini grid developer, so more of an engineering perspective, one tends to say, okay, I'm going to do a survey, capacity to pay, etc., etc., and one doesn't think, of really being as inclusive as possible. So yeah, thank you very much for this. It's really very interesting as a feedback. Any other contribution? Okay, so we also gained insights into packaging our programs for financial support. Lovely. Gabrielle, I hope you're going to get a fantastic series of new proposals then, integrating ESG now. Prudence Nyambura. Having more female CLOs on our sites. Out of around 30 CLOs all across, we only have approximately less 10% female representation. Oh, well, really, thank you very much for sharing this information that so honestly. And yeah, we're happy, I think, Marine, that all what we've said have made you feel confident enough to share this information, and that now you sort of are sensitized to the fact that it would help to increase that number, isn't it, Marine?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And I mean, it's really about taking the time, right, to speak to the people with the right instrument. And maybe the instrument already exists, it's someone in your staff, right? But it's also going in the other direction, right? I think it's important that the people who work for you, with you, also know why it's important that there are women here doing a certain type of job. And that you can be a women technician and of course a woman's CLO at once, and that can be quite interesting and empowering, right? So it's really I mean, if I could also give one piece of advice, is really to take the time to ask your staff, especially the women or the one who are not like from the mainstream profile, to ask them if they need something also in terms of support in order to collect the data, in order to be able to report better, in order to really serve better the community who you are providing electricity to. So I think it goes in both directions. We still have, Anjali, a few key sentences like for people to take home. If I can share them now, it's in the next slide.
Please
Can I
do
do that?
share them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have one more comment. What would I do in the next 6 months is that oops, sorry. Oh, it got hidden now. Conduct a survey to see the gaps and ensure focal points and CLO are well trained right from the start. Thank you very much, Sylvester, for this comment. I mean, like, if we've sort of triggered the thought that there may be some gaps and that it's a good idea to basically address them right from the start. Yeah, we feel that maybe some of the energy we put into this is really coming to fruition. So really, thank you very much for this.
Yeah.
Marine, can I hand over to you then for the 7 messages?
Yes.
And then I think we leave it to Rin for the questionnaire.
Yes, absolutely. So 7 messages, because it's like the 7 is the magic number, right? So 7 messages that hold, let's say, the whole module together. And maybe if you have the opportunity to get back to the previous trainings, keep them in mind. That first, remember that reporting is here to serve you as manager. It's a management tool first, and then it's a donor obligation, right? So it must be embedded as really your DNA. Second point is that a honest report, 80% honest report on time, beats a perfect one that never arrives. So be honest. If you're struggling with something, it is already an important information. You can make mistake, but you can learn from them. You can struggle, but you can learn from it as well. Right. Then about the data, you need to collect them once, and they can serve the bank and your own decision with it. It's about reporting as a management tool. 4 is that one well-trained person can support many sites. I hope that you will use what we have shared with you in this session and the previous ones as a way to support many colleagues and many sites at once. 5 is that ESG, it's not a one-person job. It's a team effort. And you are here with us today, albeit virtually. But I hope that you understand that, you need a village to make it happen. But at the same time, every function needs a name and a person in charge. You need to own it. 6 is that the gender and the sexual harassment and exploitation these roles are structural. They must be budgeted and they must be non-negotiable. We have so many violence around the planet. Let's not be causing more, right? It's really, really important that the gender and SEA roles are embedded as something you want to make sure women own it too. And the 7 points is that organizing an ESG process, it's a gradual journey. So keep in mind that you design now for where you aim to be, but take your time to do things well. Okay? But again, gather, collect, keep a critical eye, and contact us if you need anything else. Anjali, I think now is for you and or for Rin. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think we have another slide, do we, over here?
No, we don't.
No, we don't. So, yeah. So, I think that with this, I would like to thank you all for your participation. I mean, we were really very happy for all your feedback. I think Marine and Guilain also both definitely join us in this. And Rin, whom you haven't seen very much, but maybe Rin, you can turn on your camera so that everybody sees you. She's really been super instrumental in our team in making all of this happen. So I would like to thank all of you for your participation. I hope that this is useful for you, and yeah, we really value your feedback and also in the times to come. So can I now hand it over to you, Rin, and of course, I should not forget, super important to thank ARE, all of ARE's team, who's really, I mean, without whom we couldn't have had this. And, it's been really a smooth journey for us. And of course, we thank the African Development Bank and IFC for having given us the opportunity to come up with this work. So with this, Rin, over to you.
Thank you, Anjali, but I will hand it over to Ines, who is going to share the questionnaire and also maybe address some questions regarding, the access to the recordings of the previous sessions. Thank you, Ines. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much, Rin, Anjali, and Marine. First of all, for this whole training, also all the documents that will be provided in a month in open access on ARE's website. Indeed, I would like also to thank the partners, IFC and AfDB, for this project. I think, and I hope it was really useful for you all, for the industry, for the practitioners. As it was the first time that we organized this training all together, we would like to have, and it's very important that you feel it, we would like to have your feedback and input in case we have the opportunity to do that a second time. So I've just shared in the chat a questionnaire survey. It won't take much of your time. Just a few questions to evaluate if for you it was useful or not, satisfactory or not, and then if you have any idea, feedback for us to improve about the content, about the, I don't know, and also if you see that there is still a gap somewhere in terms of ESG and you would like us together as partners to do something else as well around ESG, if in addition to this training, you see that there is still something that needs to be done to make sure that all companies are aligned on this, do not hesitate to also share your ideas and suggestions. So if I can invite you all to open the link on the chat and directly give your input and feedback, that would be very useful and welcome to us. And then thank you very much for your active participation. It was really great to have you all during these 4 modules. And we will keep in touch when all the documents have been finalized and shared on the platform. We will make sure to share that with you, and do not hesitate to share the Project Hub with all your colleagues and also partners, and for the investors, to your investees and to the to your network. Thank you very much. I don't know if Iode or Gabriele or Andrew, you want to say a last word as well.
Yeah, perhaps maybe just very quickly from my side also. So I'm representing AfDB and Cepha here. Yeah, also a big thank you for your interest and for participating in this training. Thank you, our project partners. EUD, he really did an excellent job in putting all this together and in conducting this training, but also for our partners, IFC and ARE, especially ARE for organizing these sessions. I think your feedback will also still flow into the final version of the ESG guidance, ESG Compliance Manual and Toolkit. So yeah, please provide a lot of feedback and suggestions how the toolkit, for example, can still be improved. So we plan to finalize the documents over the course of, let's say 1 or 2 months, and then they will be available. They will be shared, as Ines already mentioned, on the ARE website, but they will also be shared by IFC and AfDB, and you will get the information where to find them. So we really hope that with this whole activity, with this package of TA and capacity building, we can contribute to, to a much easier way to comply with ESG requirements of the financiers. It's not easy. It's not easy on our side, I would say. So I guess Marie, she will. She will say the same. But it's really worth to engage with the communities and really to protect the environment and the communities with our projects and with our investments. So thank you again, and please provide a lot of feedback, and thank you to our partners, and we will share the links to the documents once they are available. Thank you very much. I don't know if my colleague from IFC is still here and wants to say something. Yeah, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Gabriela. I think you've covered it all. I want just to say thank you, everyone. This was great, and look forward for continued collaboration and to see these tools being implemented on the ground. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.